The invasion begins. In the year 2048, Earth had become a shadow of it. These creatures were nightmares made flesh. Their bodies were sleek and muscular, covered in rough, dark scales that shimmered under the pale light of the moon. Their most terrifying feature, however, was their claws long, jagged, and unnervingly sharp. They could tear through flesh and bone with ease. But it was not just their strength that made them so deadly, it was their intelligence. The White Claws were quick to adapt, evolving at a pace that defied all logic. Their cunning made them nearly impossible to. The creatures moved like shadows, silently stalking their prey through the ruined cities. They were predators, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, scanning for any signs of life. When they found it, humanity, in its desperation, tried to fight back. Armies from across the world joined forces, but their weapons were useless. No matter how many soldiers they sent, the White Claws slaughtered them with brutal efficiency. Cities fell one after another, until only a handful of survivors remained. The world had become a vast graveyard, with the echoes of screams and the soul. Amidst the devastation, when hope seemed lost, a strange phenomenon occurred. From the sky, a rift opened, swirling with lights that flickered like stars caught in a storm. Through that rift stepped a figure, clad in a dark suit, their face obscured by a visor that gleamed with an unnatural light. It was a time traveler, someone from the future, a desperate soul sent back in time with a single mission: to warn humanity of its impending doom and rally the nations to fight back. The traveler was Daniel Miller, a man who had once fought in wars, who had seen the horrors of battle, but who had traded his rifle for a classroom after the wars had ended. Now, as the last hope for humanity, Daniel found himself thrust back into a world ravaged by the very creatures he had spent years trying to forget. His arrival was not a simple matter of stepping into a new time. The world he returned to was a broken one, its people fractured and scattered. The Earth had already seen its end, and now Daniel had to find a way to unite the remnants of humanity before the final blow could fall. But what he didn't know was that even though the White Claws had nearly wiped out civilization, they were still evolving. They had only just begun their adaptation to the planet's harsh conditions, and their next form was even deadlier than before. In the desolate future, humanity's last hope rested with Murray, Daniel's daughter. She was not just any scientist, she was the key to understanding the White Claws and the only person who might hold the knowledge to defeat them. Raised in the shadow of the war, Murray had grown to become a brilliant military leader and scientist. Her knowledge of the White Claws' biology was unparalleled, and she had spent countless hours studying their toxins, trying to unravel the mystery behind their strength. Murray knew that the White Claws' venom was the key. Their venom was unlike any other, it could kill a human in mere hours, and there was no known antidote. Yet, she had discovered a startling fact: the toxin could potentially be neutralized. But she needed to find a way to synthesize a cure before the creatures adapted to the toxin, rendering it useless. Her research, however, came at a steep cost. As she worked tirelessly in her lab, Murray faced constant attacks from the White Claws, whose numbers were steadily increasing. The creatures were no longer simply invaders, they had become a force of nature, as inescapable as the tides. Each time Murray thought she had a breakthrough, the White Claws found a way to counter her efforts, forcing her to start over again. Daniel, now reunited with Murray in this ravaged future, soon realizes that the White Claws' threat is far from over. Despite the resilience of the survivors, their numbers dwindle every day. Even with Murray's brilliant mind and Charlie, a mercenary who had survived countless encounters with the creatures, fighting alongside them, they were still losing ground. Charlie had been through hell before. She had seen the White Claws up close, fought them in the trenches, and lost too many friends to count. But she was still standing, still fighting. Her cold, calculating demeanor was an asset, especially when it came to strategizing the defense against the alien menace. But even Charlie knew that no amount of preparation could stop the inevitable. The White Claws were relentless, and their intelligence made them nearly unbeatable. Dorian, another member of their group, was not long for this world. A former soldier who had fought in many wars, Dorian had been diagnosed with cancer, a cruel twist of fate that meant he had nothing left to lose. But he had made peace with his impending death and chose to fight alongside his comrades, knowing that if he fell, it would at least be for a cause greater than himself. The White Claws were not static beings. As Daniel and his team discovered, the creatures were constantly adapting to the environment, changing their methods of attack and reproduction. Initially, they had relied on sheer force to decimate humanity, but now, they had learned. They understood how to use the terrain to their advantage, how to avoid traps, and how to hunt in packs, overwhelming their enemies with numbers and precision. As they adapted, so too did their abilities. The creatures' claws grew sharper, their reflexes faster, and their ability to communicate with one another evolved into a complex system of signals and tactics. They were no longer simple predators, they had become a highly intelligent and organized army, capable of planning and executing strategies with terrifying precision. With time running out and their backs against the wall, Daniel, Murray, Charlie, and Dorian prepare for a final, desperate assault on the White Claws' main hive. The mission is dangerous, and they know that they may not return. But they have no choice. The future of humanity depends on them reaching the core of the White Claw's forces and injecting the newly developed toxin into the Queen White Claw, the source of their rapid evolution. The fight is fierce. They are ambushed at every turn, with the White Claws relentlessly hunting them down. But they press on, driven by the knowledge that if they fail, humanity will be lost forever. In the final moments, as Daniel faces the Queen White Claw, he realizes that the fight for Earth's survival is not just about defeating the aliens, it's about saving what remains of the human spirit. With a final, selfless act, he sacrifices himself to ensure that the toxin reaches the Queen. The creatures fall, their reign of terror ending at last. But at what cost? The year is 2048, and Earth is no longer the vibrant, thriving planet it once was. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of burning cities and the faint, acrid odor of destruction. The sun, once a symbol of hope and warmth, now struggles to break through the dark, polluted skies that have become a permanent shroud over the world. It is as if the planet itself is recoiling from the horrors unleashed upon it. Humanity is on the verge of extinction, and the White Claw's alien creatures from beyond the stars are the architects of this devastation. These creatures, the White Claws, are unlike anything that has ever walked the earth. Towering and sleek, their skin glistens like polished obsidian, shifting with an eerie iridescence as they move. They stand on two powerful hind legs, their bodies muscular and covered in thick, armored plating that reflects the moonlight in an unsettling way. Their faces are elongated, with sharp, predatory features, and their eyes large, glowing orbs appear to see through everything, as if they can peer into the very soul of their prey. Their mouths, wide and jagged, are filled with rows of serrated teeth, capable of tearing through the toughest flesh with ease. But it is their claws that make them truly terrifying, long, twisted appendages ending in razor-sharp tips, capable of slicing through human bones and armor alike. They are swift, almost ghost-like in their movements, appearing out of nowhere with a haunting screech that sends chills down the spine. The White Claws are not merely invaders, they are hunters, and Earth is their prey. They hunt without mercy. Once the creatures land on Earth, they quickly adapt to their new environment, their bodies changing to withstand the harsh conditions of the planet. With each passing day, they become more efficient, more lethal. The White Claws consume everything in their path: humans, animals, plants, anything that provides sustenance. Their insatiable hunger drives them to relentlessly hunt, wiping out entire populations in mere days. By the time the dust settles, only 500,000 human survivors remain. The world is fractured. Governments crumble under the weight of the invasion, and chaos reigns. Cities are left in ruins, and entire nations fall under the shadow of the White Claw's terror. What was once a thriving civilization is now a desolate wasteland, with the remnants of humanity clinging to survival. The White Claws have mastered the art of destruction, and they show no signs of stopping. They are everywhere, a constant presence, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next kill. Amidst this apocalyptic nightmare, a glimmer of hope appears in the form of Daniel Miller, a man who once fought on the front lines. Daniel was a soldier, a man forged by the horrors of war, who had once walked through the fires of conflict and emerged on the other side. But after the wars ended, he traded in his rifle for a classroom. He became a biology teacher, leaving behind his violent past in favor of a quieter life with his family. Yet, in the face of annihilation, Daniel finds himself summoned once more to join the fight. The world has no choice but to make a desperate gamble: time travel. With humanity's existence hanging in the balance, the surviving nations of Earth pool their resources to create a device capable of sending soldiers back to the past, to 2022, in a last-ditch effort to prepare humanity for the White Claw's invasion. Daniel, despite his peaceful life, is thrust into the heart of this conflict once more. The weight of the world rests on his shoulders, and he must return to the past, not just to fight, but to save a world that is already on the brink of destruction. Before he leaves, Daniel undergoes a grueling time travel test. The machine hums and whirs as the device powers up, the air growing thick with static. The sensation is unlike anything Daniel has ever felt. His body feels as if it's being pulled apart and stitched back together in an instant. When the process is complete, Daniel stands before the scientists, the world around him vibrating with the raw energy of the machine. But there is a shocking revelation. The test reveals that Daniel has only 7 years left to live. His body has already begun to deteriorate, a side effect of the time travel process. Despite this grim news, Daniel accepts his fate. He knows that if he doesn't go, the Earth will fall to the White Claws, and the future will be lost forever. He agrees to travel to the future, where he will fight for humanity's survival. He has no choice. The Earth needs him. But before he steps into the unknown, Daniel takes a moment to say goodbye to those he holds dear, especially his daughter, Murray. Murray, a brilliant young woman, has been a beacon of hope in these dark times. She is a scientist, a leader in the resistance against the White Claws, and Daniel's heart aches at the thought of leaving her behind. She is the future of humanity, and he knows that her strength will be the key to their survival. As they embrace, Daniel promises her that he will return. He must return. With a final look at his family, Daniel steps into the time travel device, his mind filled with a mixture of fear and resolve. The world is falling apart, but he is determined to change the course of history. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: this is a fight that he cannot afford to lose. As the machine activates, a blinding light fills the room, and Daniel is pulled into the swirling vortex of time, heading toward a future where humanity's survival hangs in the balance. The world that Daniel and his team of soldiers arrive in is one of sheer devastation. As the swirling vortex of time spits them out into the future, they find themselves in the ruins of a city once teeming with life. The skyline is jagged, like broken teeth protruding from a decayed mouth. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of burnt flesh, a constant reminder of the battle that has raged for years. The sun, obscured by the haze, casts an eerie, dull light, creating long shadows that stretch across the shattered streets. The city is unrecognizable. The towering skyscrapers, once symbols of human achievement, are now skeletons, their glass windows shattered, their steel frames twisted and bent. The streets are littered with debris, burned-out vehicles, remnants of fallen structures, and the occasional body of a fallen soldier, now forgotten in the face of the overwhelming threat. The ground beneath their boots crunches with the brittle remains of shattered glass and charred rubble, and every step echoes in the silence of a world abandoned by hope. The White Claws are everywhere. These creatures, the stuff of nightmares, patrol the city with a deadly precision. Their predatory eyes scan the dark corners of the ruins, glowing faintly like distant stars. Their long, sharp claws scrape against the concrete, leaving marks that could only be made by something far more deadly than any earthly predator. The White Claws move with unsettling fluidity, their sleek bodies shifting in and out of the shadows. At first, they are just a whisper, a faint sound, like the wind stirring the leaves in a forgotten corner, but then, they strike. Daniel's team barely has time to react. One moment, they are cautiously advancing through the ruined city, and the next, the silence is shattered by the blood-curdling screech of a White Claw. It comes from the shadows, moving too fast for the human eye to track. With a terrifying leap, it lands in the middle of the group, and chaos erupts. The team fires their weapons, but the White Claw is too fast, dodging the bullets with ease. The sharp crack of gunfire fills the air, followed by the sickening sound of bones snapping as the creature slices through the soldiers like they are made of paper. Despite their best efforts, many of Daniel's team are killed in that first brutal encounter. The soldiers fall one by one, torn apart by the alien creatures that seem to materialize out of thin air. The air is thick with the acrid smell of blood and the unmistakable scent of death. Daniel, barely managing to avoid the claws of another White Claw, orders the survivors to retreat. They scramble back, their boots slipping on the blood-slicked ground as they race for cover. The retreat is frantic, their hearts pounding in their chests as they dart between the ruins, desperately searching for safety. The White Claws are relentless, and every corner they turn seems to bring them face to face with another of these nightmarish creatures. The soldiers' faces are etched with fear and disbelief. How could they have underestimated the creatures so badly? How could they have failed to prepare for the horrors that awaited them in this future world? Once they find a brief moment of respite, hidden behind the crumbling remains of a building, Daniel gathers the survivors. Their eyes are wide with panic, and their breath comes in ragged gasps. They are alive, but barely. The situation is worse than they could have ever imagined. The White Claws are not just animals, they are intelligent, organized, and they hunt with a terrifying strategy. Retreat wasn't enough, Daniel mutters, his voice low, eyes haunted by the faces of the fallen. We need a new plan. Meanwhile, in a hidden underground facility far from the chaos above, Murray is hard at work. The walls around her are lined with advanced technology, blinking consoles, and sterile white floors that stand in stark contrast to the crumbling world above. Her lab is one of the last remaining bastions of human knowledge, and she's pouring every ounce of her intelligence and resourcefulness into it. She and her team are racing against time, trying to unlock the mysteries of the White Claws that have brought the world to its knees. As Murray pores over the data, something startling emerges. It begins as a small anomaly in the creature's biological structure, something no one had noticed before. But with her sharp mind, Murray pieces it together, and the truth hits her like a freight train. While the male White Claws can be killed by conventional weapons, the females are nearly indestructible. Their bodies are far more durable, their claws sharper, and their intelligence far greater. These creatures can survive almost anything. Murray's heart sinks. The humans have been fighting the wrong battle. The true threat has always been the Queen and her brood. The realization shakes her to her core. The White Claws have not only evolved physically, but they have also adapted biologically to the planet's environment. They are the perfect predators, agile, lethal, and nearly invincible. Her team begins working feverishly on a solution. They start experimenting with toxins, trying to create something that can target the female's biology. It is a dangerous task, filled with trial and error. They need a weapon strong enough to penetrate the creature's armored hides, something that could kill them before they have the chance to regenerate. The research is painstaking, and time is running out. The White Claws are not waiting, they are evolving, and with each passing day, they become harder to kill. Back in the future city, Daniel and his team are sent on a mission to infiltrate a White Claw hive, located deep within the heart of the ruins. The hive is a place of pure terror. It is a labyrinth of tunnels, slick with the blood of countless creatures that have been used as sacrifices to the White Claw's insatiable hunger. The walls are alive with the faint sounds of skittering, as if the very hive is breathing. The air inside the hive is thick with a foul stench, a mix of decay and something far worse. The temperature is unnaturally warm, and the walls seem to pulse with an ominous energy. The soldiers move cautiously, their weapons raised, their nerves taut. The deeper they go, the more unsettling the hive becomes. The tunnels narrow, and the air grows heavier. Every shadow feels like a threat, and the faintest rustle in the darkness sends their hearts racing. Then, the first White Claw strikes. It comes from above, a dark shape dropping from the ceiling like a ghost. The soldiers fire instinctively, but the creature is too quick, dodging the shots with a terrifying grace. The battle is fierce, with the soldiers fighting for their lives in a maze of dark, twisting corridors. One by one, they are picked off, torn apart by the relentless creatures. The sounds of battle, the crack of gunfire, the screech of the White Claws, and the guttural cries of the dying fill the hive, echoing through the stone. In the end, only a few soldiers remain, including Daniel. They have retrieved the necessary samples, but the cost has been high. Blood stains the walls, and the bodies of their fallen comrades litter the ground. The team has won a small victory, but the war is far from over. As they retreat, their hearts heavy with the loss of so many, Daniel looks ahead. The White Claws are evolving, adapting, and the fight for survival is far from over. But they have a chance, just a small one, and they will not give up. Not yet. The underground lab is dark, save for the faint glow of the monitors and the soft hum of machines working tirelessly in the background. The air is thick with tension, the smell of antiseptic mixing with the ever-present scent of fear. Murray stands beside Daniel, her face illuminated by the eerie light of the chamber as she adjusts the vial in her hand. The toxin is ready after months of painstaking research. They finally have something that could bring down the Queen White Claw. In the dim light, the vial shimmers faintly, its contents a deep, glowing blue alive with the promise of both destruction and salvation. The substance inside is potent, designed to penetrate the White Claw's nearly indestructible biology. The plan is simple yet dangerous. They must inject it directly into the Queen's heart, the source of her power. If successful, it will halt the evolutionary terror that has gripped the Earth for so long. But the plan has a fatal flaw. No one knows exactly what will happen once the toxin is injected. The Queen is unlike anything they've ever faced before. As they prepare to move forward, the ground shakes with an unsettling tremor. Murray's hands tighten around the vial as she feels the faint pulse of the ground beneath her boots. The sound comes first low, deep growls reverberating from the depths of the lair. Then, the walls begin to vibrate, as if the very earth is alive and angry. The noise grows louder, sharper, a terrifying screech that sends a chill crawling up their spines. The Queen White Claw is close. Suddenly, the air is split by the piercing roar of the Queen. The creature bursts through the metal wall with a force that shatters the very foundation of the chamber. She is a monstrous vision, her massive form filling the space, her sleek, armored body reflecting the dim light in unnatural shades. Her eyes glowing like molten gold fixate on Daniel and Murray with a chilling, predatory intelligence. The moment her gaze meets theirs, the ground seems to tremble even harder, as if the Queen herself is asserting dominance over everything in her path. Her claws are massive, sharp as razors, gleaming with deadly intent. With a terrifying screech, she lunges, her claws cutting through the air like a deadly storm. The team fires their weapons, but they are no match for her speed and agility. The bullets ricochet off her thick, armored hide, doing little more than sparking briefly before falling to the ground. The Queen laughs, if such a thing can be called laughter, her voice a guttural growl, mocking the humans' futile attempts. Murray's eyes lock with Daniel's, and without a word, they both understand, there's no time left. The toxin must be injected now, or all will be lost. In a desperate bid, Daniel rushes forward, dodging the Queen's massive claws as they swipe through the air, tearing through metal and stone with horrifying ease. He closes the distance between them, heart pounding in his chest, his breath shallow with fear. Murray follows, moving with a purpose, her eyes never leaving the Queen. She watches every movement, every twitch of the creature's massive form, calculating their next steps. Her hands are steady despite the danger, she knows what's at stake. In one swift, calculated move, Daniel manages to get close enough to the Queen to inject the toxin. The needle drives deep into her skin, the fluid inside slowly coursing through her veins. For a moment, nothing happens. The Queen snarls, the space around them filled with an ominous silence. Then, it begins. Her body jerks violently, as if the very poison running through her veins is seizing control of her from the inside out. The Queen screeches in agony, her voice shaking the walls of the lair. Her body contorts, spasming in violent jerks, her claws scraping against the stone floor, leaving deep grooves. Her skin darkens, her muscles twitching as if they are trying to reject the toxin that now courses through her. Her once glowing eyes, full of fierce intelligence, now glow with an unnatural red hue as the poison begins to take its toll. But as the Queen struggles, she fights back with an animalistic fury. With a furious roar, she lashes out, catching Daniel off guard. Her claws rake across his side, the sharp edges tearing through his armor and skin. Pain surges through Daniel's body, and blood pours from the wound. The force of the blow sends him crashing into the jagged remains of a nearby wall. His vision blurs, the world spinning around him. He gasps for breath, struggling to push through the pain. "Murray," he whispers, his voice barely audible as he forces himself to rise. Murray, her face pale but determined, pushes forward. She pulls Daniel back to his feet, her hands trembling as she grips his arm. They both know the battle is far from over. But they also know that this is their last chance. The Queen is weakening, her movements becoming more erratic, more chaotic. Her body begins to twist unnaturally, as if the toxin is tearing apart her very essence. The White Claws, sensing their Queen's distress, charge into the chamber, but they are too late. Their leader, their symbol of power, is dying before their eyes. As the Queen lets out one final, earth-shattering scream, Daniel feels the weight of the world shifting. The creatures that have terrorized Earth for so long are falling, their strength drained by the very toxin they once feared. The once unstoppable force is now crumbling. But the price is high. Daniel's vision begins to fade as the world blurs around him. He feels his body failing, his blood loss too great to recover from. He reaches out to Murray one last time, his hand trembling as he grasps hers. The fight is over, and humanity has won. He can feel it in the air. The battle may be lost, but the war has been won. "I'm sorry," he whispers, his voice breaking. I couldn't." His words trail off as his grip weakens. Murray holds his hand tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. "No, don't say that," she replies, her voice filled with sorrow and strength. "You've saved us all, Dad. You've ensured our future." As Daniel's breathing slows, the faintest trace of a smile crosses his face. He knows the world has a chance now. Humanity can rebuild. The toxin worked, the white claws are falling, and their reign of terror has ended. In his final moments, Daniel feels a fleeting sense of peace. The next thing he knows, his body is weightless. The darkness envelopes him completely, and then he is gone. Daniel Miller is transported back to the present, his body now a vessel of time's cruel toll. He no longer exists in this fractured world. But the ripple he left behind is powerful. The world he fought for, the world his daughter will lead, is now poised for a second chance. Though the battle was grueling, and the cost was steep, humanity has a fighting chance. The White Claws, the unstoppable predators that once roamed the earth, have begun to fall. And for the first time in decades, the light of hope shines again. The world is quiet, but only for a moment. The earth, scarred and battered from the years of warfare, seems to hold its breath, waiting for the future to unfold. It is a fragile peace, a tenuous calm that feels like the eye of a storm, knowing that the battle of 2048 still looms on the horizon. Yet, in the wake of Daniel's sacrifice, humanity stirs with newfound resolve, as if his final act has ignited a spark of defiance deep within the hearts of those who remain. Murray stands alone at the head of a vast, fortified command center. The hum of machinery and the low murmur of voices fill the room as people from all corners of the world gather, united under a common cause. The air is thick with anticipation. This is the final chance. There is no room for failure. The command center is a massive underground complex, its walls lined with high-tech equipment, screens flickering with data and images of the global defense systems. Murray, with her sharp eyes and unwavering resolve, moves swiftly from one station to the next, her mind calculating, adjusting, planning. Her father's words echo in her thoughts, his final promise still ringing in her ears: "You are the future now." The weight of her father's legacy presses down on her shoulders like a heavy cloak, but she does not falter. In the face of overwhelming odds, Murray knows that the battle has only just begun. With the toxin now part of humanity's arsenal, it has given them a fighting chance, but it is only the first step. The White Claws are relentless, evolving, and adapting. They will not stop until they have completely wiped humanity from the face of the earth. Outside, the world is a blur of frantic activity. Governments, long fractured by years of conflict, have now come together, their differences set aside in the face of a common enemy. Across the globe, countries collaborate on building defenses, massive walls of steel and reinforced concrete rising from the ground, watchtowers manned by soldiers, and aircraft patrolling the skies. Each nation has sent their finest to the front lines, but it is Murray who has become the beacon of hope, the symbol of unity. Her voice carries over the airwaves, reaching into the hearts of millions. "We stand together," she declares, her words cutting through the static of the emergency broadcast. "Our survival depends on our unity, on our will to fight. We will not bow to these creatures. We will reclaim our planet. We will survive." Her face, resolute and focused, stares out from every screen. On every corner of the Earth, people are watching, listening. They are ready. The pain, the loss, they will carry it with them into battle. The memory of their fallen loved ones, the ashes of cities long lost, fuel their resolve. Daniel's death was not in vain. Humanity has been given a second chance, and it will not be squandered. In the midst of it all, Murray finds a moment to herself. She steps away from the chaos, finding solace in the quiet. The room is empty, save for the soft flickering of screens and the gentle hum of the ventilation system. Her hands tremble as she holds a small, weathered photo in her palm, a picture of her father, smiling, holding her hand when she was just a child. The photo is torn, the edges frayed, but she holds it with reverence. It is all she has left of him. And it is enough. She traces his face with her fingers, whispering a quiet promise. "I'll finish this for you, Dad. I'll finish what you started." The days that follow are a blur of action. Murray coordinates military operations, strategizes with scientists and engineers, and ensures that every possible measure is taken to prepare for the White Claw's inevitable assault. The toxin they had developed is now being mass-produced, ready to be deployed in every corner of the Earth. But Murray knows that even with this weapon, victory is not guaranteed. The White Claws are unlike any enemy humanity has ever faced. They are not simply creatures to be killed, they are a force of nature, a storm that must be weathered. And so, humanity prepares for war. In the heart of the command center, the countdown begins. The world watches, united in purpose, holding its collective breath as the final day draws near. Every nation has contributed, every soldier, every scientist, every engineer working in unison. The sound of marching feet fills the streets as the armies take their positions. The earth shakes with the roar of aircraft engines, their sleek forms slicing through the sky as they patrol the boundaries of the planet, scanning for any sign of the coming invasion. But there is something different now. There is something in the air that feels alive. It is not just the weight of the impending battle. It is something deeper, something more profound. It is the sense that humanity, once fractured and divided, has found a way to come together. For the first time in years, there is a flicker of hope, a hope that burns bright in the face of the unknown. Murray stands at the edge of the command center, looking out over the sprawling complex. Her eyes narrow, her thoughts racing as she watches the preparations unfold. She feels the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she also feels something else, the strength of the countless people behind her. The survivors. The fighters. The ones who will stand beside her in the final battle. In that moment, Murray knows that no matter what happens, humanity will never give up. They will never stop fighting. They have endured too much to let this fight be their last. The Earth has been scarred, the scars of war etched into its very soul. But it is still alive. And as long as it breathes, as long as there are people like Murray, there will always be a chance. The final battle awaits. The world is united, and a new hope for survival begins to take shape. Thanks for watching the UFO Enigma. If you enjoyed the journey into the unknown, leave a comment below, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a new mystery. The truth is out there, and together, we'll uncover it. Stay curious, stay captivated, and we'll see you in the next episode.